Villain, one of my favorite villains from a movie about working hard, having a goal, and then you might meet some shifty people who practice black magic. Who's that? Did you know? Is that another of a hint? Dr. Facilier, yeah, the Shadow Man from Princess and the Frog. Yeah, that's who we're drawing. Yeah, he's a lot of fun to draw, but there is a challenge to him, but I think you guys are up for it. So, are you ready to draw the Shadow Man? Yeah, alright. Let's do it. Alright, I'm so happy you're excited. Okay, let's find the middle. Let's find the middle and leave a little mark in the center because he's got a long face, so we need as much room as we can to draw. So if you want, you can even maybe turn your board around. That's helpful. But I'm going to draw my circle really teeny tiny just above this dot because I want to build from here. Now when you draw your character, it's not about how perfect the starting circle is, okay? So it can be as messy as you need it to be. Because Dr. Facilier isn't just a circle walking around, right? That's Mike Wazowski's thing. So for Facilier, yeah, we got to build from the circle. So honestly, let it be as messy as it can be. Ovals and egg shapes, we can use those too. Now what I like to do is I'll maybe round out some of the sides that I don't really like or I think could use some work. And that's where that building comes into play. But I want you to divide your circle top to bottom and really pull this down. Again, he's got a long, long face. So right down the middle. From left to right, we're going to do the same thing. This will be his eye line. We're going to draw him almost like he's hunching forward. So his hat will also be moving towards us in perspective. But we'll get into that in just a moment. Now, Dr. Facilier, again, is a tall, very lanky character, and he's got a large chin. In drawing and animation, lantern jaws, as they're called, is a good way to know that that character on screen is there as a confident force. And Dr. Facilier, I feel like, definitely is, right? He's constantly conning normal folk into accepting his deals, and they're not always the best, right? So let's build that chin. I'd say you can use maybe the width of the circle to kind of find out how far. But then I'm going to curve inward. So at first, his chin is going to be very sharp, right? Very pointy. And villains are typically drawn with sharp points in mind, right? So it fits perfectly. His hat is going to sit right on his head, right, obviously. But I like to draw in an extra guideline to kind of show where his eyes will sit. So I'd say about here, you want a little bit of space. And the brim of the hat is going to be pointing towards us. So draw now what kind of looks like maybe a squished potato, or a little lemon, or football. Right here above that guideline. Now as we build the top of his hat, he's going to be hunching forward. So he's going to be tilting down, so the hat's going to be sticking out. So for that, I'm going to sit it right here on top of my circle, head to the top, and then draw in this little letter U. Little letter U. This is the part of the hat that's sitting on his head. And then his hat is super tall. So I'm going to go ahead and go up as far as the screen will allow me. But maybe you want to draw the whole thing. Really extend it out. Maybe he's wearing the hat that the mayor wears in the Night Before Christmas, a really tall hat. It goes really, really high. Now before we add anything new, let's go ahead and start to lock in, I think, at least the hat so that we can kind of make sense of what we're sketching. So I'm going to start by locking in the top of his hat, this little bucket section. And locking in, for any of you that are new, just means you're darkening in what's important about your drawing. So let's say at this point you think you made a mistake, or you just don't like the lines that you've got so far. That is fair, right? You're the artist. If you want to draw something entirely different, you absolutely can. But the darker lines are what we, as the audience, because at the end of this, we're going to have an art show to show off our drawings. Yeah. But I want you to lock in what you want everyone to see. So, like I said, let's start with the hat. Now, Dr. Facilier, as for those of you that may not know who he is the villain of the movie Princess and the Frog. Yeah, very iconic. And the Princess and the Frog movie franchise, Tiana the character, is getting like a resurgence in popularity. Not that she wasn't, a popular character then, but for sure it's rising. We're going to get a whole new show, a new ride, and a new restaurant, right? If that wasn't enough, yeah. It's very incredible to think about. One last thing that we could add in for our drawing before we move on to anything new is to start to block out that skull that sits on his hat. It's a little oval or a little circle. And then the skull is very stylized. You want to draw in this like letter M shape. for the teeth of the skull. And then it's got two bones that kind of cross over each other. Right now I'm just going to build it up as two little random lines, and we'll come back to this in a moment. All right, construction is in for Facilier. How you guys doing out there? Pretty good? Amazing so far? Not bad. All right, some of you are still catching up, it sounds like. We're going to start from the bottom now and then work our way up, and we're essentially going to flesh in all of the detail. Now, in the movie, we know that he wears kind of like this blazer or suit kind of shirt to him. So right here on the sides of his chin, I want to bring down his shoulders. And he's a very tall character, and he also has very broad shoulders at that. So I'm going to curve out two kind of sloping lines, on either sides of his chin. Right below the chin itself, I'm going to bring down two parentheses. This is the opening to that coat that he wears. Got a little coat. And then the outer lining to his shirt, I'm going to bring down about halfway. I don't want to go as far as the inside is, but bring it about halfway down. Instead of bringing it down to meet this one here, you want to carve into it this letter V. And that's as far down as we're going to go. If you want to go any further, it's up to you. You can draw in maybe his arms or something entirely different. But as far as the coat goes, it's all that we need. However, he does also wear a necklace, right? Yep. So along the inside of his coat, a little letter U right in the middle. And I think he's got like these two teeth kind of hanging off the sides of his necklace. And they look like upside down water droplets or teardrops. And then we'll lock in that line. Now, Dr. Facilier here is voiced by Keith David. Does anyone recognize that name?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, right? Keith David has done so many things. He's been in so many films. He's voiced so many characters throughout the years. The one of the ones that stands out to me is the character Spawn. Anyone a fan of Spawn? Yeah, okay, a few, yeah. He's been in the movie No, Hercules, Coraline, to name a few. He's like as iconic as they get. Yeah,
he's awesome.
He's amazing. He even provides the singing voice for this character too. Speaking of singing voice, his smile is what's going to be, I feel like for a Dr. Facilier class, that's going to really elevate it. But let's build up the sides of his face because he also has very powerful cheekbones. They're going to sit right here where the line is meeting your circle. And it kind of looks like these little bracket shapes or greater than or less than signs. Yeah, this is something you typically see on a lot of Disney villains. The ones that I can think of off the top of my head are Cruella. She's got the sharpest cheekbones, I think, ever. Bones ever. We're going to lock in the top of the circle, the one that's poking out from below the hat. Now, as far as facial features go, when you draw a character, we take the approach that if you start with the nose, you can then use it to logically find everything else. So between all of our lines, it's going to go right here below the center. It looks like a little oval. He's going to have like a little Mickey Mouse style nose at first. I think I'll go a little wider too. Yeah, think Mickey Mouse at first. Lock in the sides, a parenthesis, if you will. Yeah, on the sides of the nose. And then his nostrils are these very exaggerated letter U's, or rainbow shapes that sit right between the two parentheses. And I like to personally shade like the bottom of it so we can imply a little shadow. But then logically you can then infer, well, below the nose obviously is his mouth, and above it is his smile, right? Or his eyes. Yeah, he has two mouths. His eyes are going to sit right up above the nose, and in fact, we're not going to worry about drawing like an exact shape. Instead, just sitting above the nose, I want you to draw in these two very shallow letter U's, or rainbows rather. I'm getting those mixed up a lot. Stretched out curves, and then just underneath that, letter U's for his eyes. Now he's going to have a very intense look. Now he's very charismatic, which is what you can start to find in a lot of these Disney villains. They're very charismatic, but then deep down they've got the worst intentions, right? So he's looking a little mad, yes, which is what we want, but I want to curve up and out now. I want to exaggerate that eyebrow. Right now he's looking a little possessed, right? Which I feel like is good for him, very on brand. But his eyes then, his pupils, are just going to be letter U's that sit right below. And you want to shade those in. Now, the crazy thing about this character, one of my favorite facts, is that originally, actually, who has not seen this movie? I gotta know. Be brave. Who hasn't seen it? Okay, a lot of you. You've got some homework to do. But originally, this character was going to be the son of Mama Odie. And there was going to be a conflict between the two of them. Yeah. Early concepts had him. Yeah, isn't that cool? But I feel like the decision was made to change that because the focus, of course, should be on Tiana, right? This is her movie. And I feel like having that extra conflict might have added too much unnecessary time. So they cut it, but I just feel like that would have been such a cool concept. Now, even though he is not her son, Mama Odie still also has a very important role in the movie. But for this character, he's got a big smile, right? So just off the side of his cheekbones here, I'm bringing out these lines. And a letter U is going to stretch from the left or right, wherever you started, from one end to the other. But his mustache also plays a big role in his design. So I'm going to actually build on this curve simply by locking in a little bit extra, giving him that mustache. Now his lower lip is going to sit right below this one, or this curve I should say. So I'm just copying that letter U 2 times. So eventually I'll draw it again right underneath. If I draw one more letter U, this one's a little bit wider, then we'll be drawing in his lower lip. And I'm going to stretch it again from one side all the way to the other. Now, you don't want these to compete, because it kind of looks like he just has 3 random lines. So to kind of remedy that, I like to lock in the mustache a little darker, but also shade in his lips. But I don't want them to be as dark as the mustache, but still shade those in. Really, the last thing that we want to draw for our drawings of Dr. Facilier is to basically add in where his ears are. We can't see the whole thing. They could be hiding right here behind his hat. From here, we'll go back and lock in all of our features, shading in anything that you'd like, or maybe you want to add some extra credit, you totally can. But as far as our drawings for Facilier go, the last thing I can see that we're missing is just adding in some detail to the skull. We'll draw in his eyes, and then fill in the details on the ends. From here, though, if you've been here before, our last thing is to go ahead and find a good spot on our sketches. Because as I mentioned earlier, I want to show off your drawings. I want you to see how well everybody did. And check it out, too. All right, let's do one last check-in, though. How we do in the end? How these turn out? Pretty good. Amazing. Stunned silence from so many of you. Well, here's what we'll do. Again, go ahead and add in your last minute touches. I'll go ahead and shade in my drawing. But I want to count to 3, and on 3, everybody lift their boards and show off your drawings. And don't forget, take a look around. Yeah, this is the best part. Oh wait, we forgot to sign our names. Quick, find a good spot to sign your sketches. All right, on 3, ready. 1, I'll give you a slow count. I'm still kind of catching up. 2, 2.5, 3. Let's see. Come on, let's take a look. Shadow Man, he's looking great. Look at the grins on these. Nice job. These are great. You did some of the shadow, the prints on the snakes?
The sticks that have the prints.
Yeah, I remember. Those are great. This is amazing. Nice job. The shading, the extra, the tiniest one ever, I think. What you got to detail. That looks good. This is great. Let's see that one more time. Let's see. Yeah, that looks great. I love that. Backwards. One more time. One more time.